We're going to be taking a look at number 4. Now this shape they're being a little bit mean on this page because I see they didn't start the vertice at one of the square centimeters. But I have a half and a half, which is equal to 1. And then I've got an angle here, so I see where I can make a triangle. But this one does make it a little bit tricky. So I've got my cutout. What I'm going to do is make triangles are the easiest thing for me to do. Rectangles, I'm sorry, are the easiest. The more rectangles I can create, the better. So when I cut this guy off, I can actually see this little rectangle that's right here is a 1 by 3.5. So this guy here is equal to, let me see if I can draw it. It's in the middle, but it's 1 square, 2 squares, 3 squares, and a half square. And you can kind of see it's actually a quarter square and a quarter square put together, a half and a half put together, a half and a half put together. So this rectangle here is equal to 3.5. Now the triangle gets a little bit tricky, so let's flip it over, and I can see if I make it a rectangle, then I can cut that area in half to find the area of the triangle. This guy makes a rectangle that has 1, 2.5 by 1, 2, 3.5. All right, so we've got to find those squares. So I could do my multiplication of 3.5 by 2.5, or I can try to count these squares. So I've got 1 square, 2 squares, 3, 4, 5, 6 full squares. Oh, I see these two together make 7. These two together make 8. And then this one gets a little bit funny. I've got a half of a square and a quarter of a square. So a half and a quarter together is the same as 2 quarters and 1 quarter. So I have 3 quarters here, 3/4. It almost makes another full box, but not quite. 3/4. Okay, so let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 3/4. Plus this little rectangle, which is 3.5. Ooh, you need to know your fraction skills to solve this guy. All right, 8 plus 3 is 11. And 3/4 plus a half. So I know a half is the same as 2 quarters. So that means 5/4. But 5/4 is an improper fraction. I actually have another whole in there. So I end up with 12 and 1/4. Oh no, I've made a mistake. I can tell because 12 1/4 is the area of the whole thing. But I need just this triangle and the rectangle. So I am going to go back and take a look at my work. All right, before I solve or do my addition, I first need to take 8 3/4 and divide it by 2. All right, 8 divided by 2 is 4. And 3/4 divided by 2. Well, it means I'm going to take 3/4 and break it into two groups. This one's going to be a little trickier for me to do in my head, but I think I can actually do 6. Oh, yeah. I'm going to do 6/8 and divide it by 2 because I know that if I break 6/8 into two groups, I get 3/8 and 3/8. So I'm going to use 6/8 instead, equals 3/8. Now I have, oops, now I have my area of that triangle. So my area of my triangle, my Post-it notes are building out. I made a mistake, but we all do. We've got 4 and 3/8 is the area of the triangle, plus 3.5, which is the area of this rectangle. Putting those together, 4 plus 3 is 7. And let's see, 3/8 plus a half. I know a half is the same as 4/8. So 4/8 plus 3/8 is 7/8. All right, so my area is 7 and 7/8. That guy was tricky.